There's a little message behind this one. Anyone get the message? I think they got the message. So, there was a great demon whose name was Ravan. Ravan was a very demoniac personality. He appears in the great epic called the Ramayana. Hare And although Ravan was very demoniac, he was also very intelligent. And one little gem of wisdom that Ravan came up with was that he said, don't put off till tomorrow what you can do today. So that's really what the little theme was behind the whole story. Because we have so many other things that are important, but the real issue really is, at some point, we will have to leave this material world. Every single one in this room, and every single one out the room. Everyone in existence at some point will have to leave and go on to something else. And we can address that problem right now, this very minute, and decide what can we do about it. Of course, there's two ways you can go. You could decide, well, there's nothing I can do about it, so I may as well just try and have a good time. And that's actually what animal life is. Animal life is, you don't really see the problem, you just eat your grass every day, you get a bit of mating here and there, and that's it really, and then, you know, one day you die. And in fact, if you take two goats, and you slit one goat's throat, the other goat will just carry on eating the grass. Because the other goat cannot grasp the significance of death. It just sees the grass, well, there's still grass there for me, so there's no problem, it carries on. It doesn't really. So animals don't really see the problem with death. The human being, though, the human being sees somebody else die, and then somebody else dies, and then he starts thinking, hey, hold on a second, it's going to happen to me as well. What am I going to do about it? So you can't just think, well, there's nothing I can do about it, so then you just revert back, you do a U-turn with your intelligence, and you just decide, well, there's no point going down this one, maybe you should just come back and just have a good time. Or get on with things which, you know, are more practical. Sometimes people say that to us when we're out on the street giving people books, they say, well, why don't you lead a more practical, realistic life, you know? And what is the most realistic thing is that we're going to have to leave, we're going to have to at some point die, and we have to deal with that issue. Then the other way we can go is we can decide, well, no, maybe there is something after this, so now I'm going to use my God-given intelligence to try to understand, is there something after this life? Hands up if you think there is something after this life. So what does that mean? If there's something after this life, then that means there was something before this life. Because you can't have one really without the other, you know. If life goes on forever afterwards, then it must have gone on before as well, really. So that means we've been here before, and it means we'll be here again. That's your alternative that you've got. Of course, there's many diversifications on that theme, but if we just decide, well, yeah, there's definitely something after this, then hands up if you think, Haribol, Haribol, Haribol. Hands up if you think that what you're doing in this lifetime is going to have an effect upon what happens to you after this life. Oh, no, it's many, only a few. Some, say about. Did everyone catch that question? What you're doing now will have an effect upon your next life. Okay, so then, for those who put their hands up, then that means that they accepted the law of karma. Whatever you're doing now, it comes back on you in the future. Actually, it doesn't really make sense that if there is something after this, that you can do anything you want in this lifetime, and it's of no consequence in the next one. Because if you look in the room right now, we have so many different shaped noses, so many different shaped eyes, different faces, different mentalities, different weights. We could all sit down now, and we could all eat the same for the next month. And some of us will be this big, some of us will be this big, some of us will be this. So although we eat all the same, we all end up different shapes and sizes and whatever, you know. So this is karma. That you get a particular body, with a particular mind, a particular set of senses, because of what you've done in the previous lifetime. That's why there's so much diversification. So if you think about it, then that would also apply for the next one. Where you go next. There's so many varieties here. This is just in the one species. There's so many species. They all have little living entities inside powering those material bodies. So many species, so many varieties. So you see that according to what you're doing now, that one put you into another situation, and it could be so varied, the situation. We're all just here in this country now. Imagine if we had people from all over the world, how many different mentalities would be there, different attitudes, so much variety there. So that indicates that according to what you're doing now, how you're acting now, how you're thinking, how you're speaking, how you're eating, every move you make is all culminating in that next situation that you will find yourself in. So what an amazing opportunity. We're all here in this room right now. We can all digest this philosophy, and we'll all take it back home with us, and we can all implement it in some way. Some will implement it more than others according to our level of intelligence, sincerity, and other desires that are going on. But we can all take to some positive activity or mentality that will help us in the future to have a better situation. I remember when I first heard about karma, I was 19 years of age, and I was living in Manchester in a squat with some unsavory characters, and we were all starting to rip each other off because he'd ripped him off and he was going to rip him off, and he'd ripped him off so he was going to rip him off, and he was going to pull his arm off and he was going to kill him, and it all got really, really bad. And then one day one of them came in and they said, do you know, I've been reading this thing about karma, and we're all being bad to each other because we're being nasty. He's being nasty back to me, and I'm just going to start being nice to everyone. I'm going to go to him and pay his debt, and I'm going to be nice to that one because I was, and I'm going to just try and make all the karma good so I have a better situation. So we all started doing it. We all started being nice to each other and honest to, and then everything went totally different. It all changed. So according to how you're acting determines how the nature around you reacts towards you. If you're a cheat, if you're nasty, if you're horrible, in due course of time, that horrible, nasty cheatingness will all come back and take its toll on you. Whatever you do, comes back on you. So with our friend there, what's his name again? Dilip. Dilip was going from one excuse to the next excuse to the next excuse. But the real problem he had to address was he had a chance now to go home, back to Godhead. And really, if he wanted to do the best for all his family and his relatives and everything else, then just go back. Because when you go back, then it explains in the Vedic scriptures that so many of your relatives, from so many generations in front, that they also get benefit for you going there, or your forefathers so much. So then so what happened, unfortunately, the nature of desire is that if you try to fulfill a desire, it brings more desire. If you have a desire for something and you decide, well, I'm just going to go ahead and do this, then the fruit of that desire is that when it plants, it grows and it sprouts into more desire. So from fulfilling one desire, then you end up with 10 desires. So you think, okay, well, I'll fulfill those 10 desires. Then you're with 100 desires. And then you decide, well, I'm going to fulfill all these desires. Then you're with 1,000 desires. And you think, no, I'm going to fulfill all these desires. And then you end up with 1,000,000 desires. And they just keep increasing and increasing and increasing. It's like sitting down to a meal, and the more you eat the meal, the hungrier that you get. So instead of satisfying the hunger, after you've eaten a few times, you're becoming ravenous, becoming like an animal. Ah, I'm so hungry. And then you eat more, and then you get more hungry, and then more. So in material life, it's like that as well. The more we try to pursue our material desires, the more we increase them at the same time. So the whole process, because Narada Muni was giving a very easy solution for Dilip. You just come back with me right now. But generally, we're not so fortunate. We have to try and extricate ourselves out of the material world. And that means getting free from material desires, giving up material desires. And the easiest way, because it's very difficult to give up desire, so the easiest way to do it, the solution, is that we do everything for the pleasure of Krishna. We dovetail, we have this expression, dovetail. You have your desires, and then Krishna has his service. So we dovetail our desires. If you like to paint, then you paint a nice picture of Krishna. If you like to cook, you make a nice meal and you offer it to Krishna. If you like to, do drama, then you do a drama, but you do it for Krishna. If you like to speak, or sing, or dance, you do it for Krishna. Then you fulfill your desires, but when those desires are fulfilled, because you satisfy Krishna, then those desires don't come back in demand, that you do this, that, and the next thing. Because once Krishna is satisfied, then you become so satisfied that you become free from all your material desires. And then eventually, all that's left is you have just this one desire left in your heart, which is actually your desire deep down inside. The big desire that we have inside, the burning desire, the real desire we have, is that we want to love somebody. We want to give ourselves to somebody. And then when we can't do that, then we think, okay, well, I'm just going to look after myself. No point trying to love anybody around here, so I'll just love myself. So then that love turns into lust. So we turn that process around, and we turn our lust, our selfishness, back into love for Krishna. And then when we have love for Krishna, then automatically we have love for everything else, and we're satisfied to try and help. We're not envious of anybody. If someone has a bigger car, or a nicer sari, or a nicer haircut, or bigger muscles, or a nicer girlfriend, then we're not worried anymore. Because we love Krishna, we love everything around Krishna. We're not trying to compete with anybody else. We know Krishna's the greatest, Krishna's the best. So we just try to serve him, please. Jai. Hare Krishna!